Hiya, in this video today I'm going to be speaking to Kieran about the big importance of having a publicity management strategy and a plan to back that up, and also the fact that long form content is not dead, so don't believe what people tell you. And very lastly, I'll also be talking to Kieran a little bit about my own journey in business and how I grew my company to what it is today.
So welcome to ProfileTree TV, and today I'm joined by Tina Calder from Excalibur Press. So Tina is a publicist, a journalist and a content creator. So Tina, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you so much.
Excellent. So I'm glad I got that all right.
Yeah, cheers.
First take, there we go. So brilliant. So for the few people who don't know who you are, you would mind just giving a little bit of a background to who you are and what you've done?
I'll try to make it a potted history, otherwise we could be here all day. You know?
It's all good.
But so for the last 20 years I've been a journalist, predominantly based in Northern Ireland. And I've worked for literally every major newspaper and magazine across the country. I've owned several different agencies of different ideas behind them. You know, one was a media syndication company, one we did photo syndication, we also did a little bit of publicity back in the day. But it was only really when people bullied me into it. And where it really came from was I was a showbiz journalist for about 12 to 15 years. And during that time, I'd carved these wonderful relationships with celebrities and people who were in the public eye. And it got to the stage where the relationship was so good that they would come to me and ask me for advice. And then that sort of stepped into the world of publicity. And then I started becoming their publicists and agents at times. And then So I worked for the Daily Mirror for a while. I worked for, I've been working for the Sunday World, Sunday Life from, forever now, since in my teens. But what I wanted, when I came back, is I took a career break. I took over a bar. It's a whole other story. Had a baby, came back and went, should really get back to what I actually do. And when I opened Excalibur Press, I wanted to challenge myself. I'm not saying I'd had enough of standard journalism, but I had been a freelance for a long time, and I know quite a lot of the editors. I had really good working relationships, and I sort of thought to myself, well, one of the things that people didn't know about me was that I was a trade journalist and a business journalist all of that time as well, and I absolutely love entrepreneurship. And I thought, well, how can I turn all of this into something that's really challenging? And when I came back, what I noticed was, there was this rise of bloggers and all of this I was like, I've been doing that for years. We had Fame magazine back in, I remember WordPress, I think, started up in 2003, if I'm not mistaken, and we were on Blogspot beforehand, and we were one of the first companies to use WordPress. And I remember being like, WordPress, it's the best thing, and everybody was like, this online thing's not going to catch on.
Yeah, it'll never work. It'll never work. Yeah.
Nobody's going to want to go online. And at the time we were publishing all of our press releases and all of the content we were creating, and we were publishing it on there, then we were pushing it out through social, and we were getting amazing results on social because we were the only people doing it at the time. And I was one of these people, I'm not getting Facebook, that's what everybody's doing, and then I got it, became addicted, still addicted. And now I suppose I've taken all of that and turned it into a publicity management company. So at the heart of what we do is really about helping people to create a better, platform for themselves and their company and their brand. And I always sort of say it's about making people famous in their world. So it's not about getting you on TV, on Big Brother or something. It's about creating an element of fame within your industry. So it might be the food and drink industry, or it might be the holistic therapy industry, whatever that is. And so we do an awful lot of work with thought leaders now. It seems to be just an industry that I've gravitated towards, and we would do an awful lot of planning. So we would sit down with them, work out a strategy. How do we bring you further into your industry? How do we take you head and shoulders above the people that you're in competition with? And then looking at the content behind that, because it's all driven by content, as ProfileTree knows itself. But it's getting people to understand the importance of that content, and that a social media post is not a strategy. Doing the odd post once in a blue moon, And more importantly, social media isn't the whole strategy either. So we would tend to work with a lot of marketeers, PR consultants. We work with companies like yourselves, web developers, SEO experts, people like that, because we come in and we sort of have this support network, and we work with the clients so that they understand what it is that they're doing and why they're doing it and the benefits of that. And we take them through whether it's a long-term strategy they want or whether it's something short-term. We take them through whether or not it's instant fame they're looking for or whether it's conversion sales, because there's two completely different publicity campaigns. And some people actually get really surprised because we maybe aren't posting on social media for them, or we aren't doing press releases because we're busy away ringing, you know, industry leaders, or we're speaking to, you know, at networking events. Like today, for example, I was down at the BNI network on behalf of one of my clients, Oranga, which is a graphic design company. And someone said to me, but why are you here? Because I'm his publicist. That's what I do. I go and I make him famous, you know, in his world, in his area. And that's what we kind of want to get across to people, is that there's so much choice out there when it comes to publicity, comms, PR, marketing, you name it, that we sort of give them a little bit of everything so that they can then work out, well, where do I go next? And we can bring in the experts for them, or we can send them off to experts. And, you know, if someone leaves us, you know, that's a success to us, because it means, you know, they've moved on to the next stage. It's better if they stay with us, you know, but, you know, we take kids flying the nest as a good sign.
Amazing. And it's incredible, as you say, a lot of people don't understand the amount of work it is now to build a profile or build a brand online. It's
Absolutely.
not easy. Back when you started, it was easy. Well, for sure.
It seemed easy. Yeah.
Back 100, you know, feels like we were not online.
Back when I was a little skipper.
But it's amazing now that the difference is today, and it's like we see it. I'd say it every quarter. I think it gets harder and harder and harder. I think I said that I felt it was like 15 or 20% harder this quarter than it was in Q4 last year to gain traction online. And it's just because there's so many other people and there's so much noise.
And there's also this thing that, and it really bothers me, that everyone is looking for the next hipster social media thing. You know, it's not exciting enough. It's not this, it's not the other. And I'm like, it's not about being the most exciting. It's not about having the biggest, best, most expensive video. It's not about, you know, employing, you know, ridiculously priced graphics people and social media creators. It's about having a sustained campaign that communicates clearly to the people that you're talking to, and that's mostly your clients and your customers, and also your peers. You know, because if they don't know what you do, then how can they ever recommend you or work with you or find a collaboration or whatever? But it's really difficult to get past that. You've got people who think social media is all about going viral, and then you have people who just don't even know why they have to bother. And so we kind of try to bring people into this middle ground somewhere to give them, you know, this idea that it's not all about your social media. It's not the be all and end all. And in fact, we would rather you would get your customers off social media and into an email list or something else, because you own that. Whereas all you're doing is renting space on Facebook. You're lucky at the minute that it's free. You know, Instagram free, Twitter free. But is it? Because you have to start, you know, using your Facebook ad manager and whatnot, and anybody that uses Boost, well, that's a whole nother rant I have.
But again, in the content game, we're both on the same page in all of this, which is incredible, and we both see how many campaigns and how much money is spent in campaigns that look amazing, but actually don't do anything. There's no substance to them, so it is a little bit frustrating with the industry, but hey, we'll change it.
Well, this is it. Together, we'll get there.
and in your future gazing, so do you think it will get harder? Do you think content and creating a personal brand for everyone, not just for businesses, is very important?
Absolutely. I think when it comes to what's going to happen or how the future's looking, I'm very clear that people are much more savvy today than they were even last year, let alone 10 years ago. And their expectations are huge, absolutely massive. So when they're consuming your content, they're wanting to learn, they're wanting to be inspired, they're wanting to be moved, they want to be galvanized, they want to be informed, they want something from it. so churning out stuff just for the hell of it, you know, and they want to be entertained as well, you know, but that doesn't mean that you have to go around creating, you know, these comedy viral videos about your fire extinguisher company. That's not what we're saying. It's about making sure that how you speak to your audience, whether that's through a brochure, whether that's through your website, whether it's even in a sales letter. We do a lot of like sales letters, we do a lot of brochure content, we would do an awful lot of obviously press releases and blog posts and stuff like that. But the big key message in it all is, what is that call to action, and how does it make you look? So you don't want to be salesy, but at the same time you have to keep in mind that sales and marketing funnel, because if you're not getting them into the funnel, what's the point? And I think that for me is where I think people are becoming more savvy. Customers are becoming more savvy about getting put into the funnel. So they're like, if I sign up to that, I'm totally getting a pile of emails for the next 6 months, you know. So it's about giving them irresistible content that they can't not consume, and that normally is giving them something that's really good quality, you know, and not just churning out any old tripe for the sake of it, you know.
Enough said. Have you seen then in the last year or so a massive change in consumer awareness?
Oh, I would say in the last 4 years, consumers are becoming really discerning with their time, and you literally, I was at the BBC Media Festival, and I can't remember her name, I'm so sorry I can't remember her name, but she was saying that you have this amount of time to capture somebody's attention. And I was like, oh no, she's right, this is really bad, you know. And that was where the whole discussion around, you know, whether you utilise your Instagram stories and your or whether you utilise, for example, portrait videography in response to, or horizontal or whatever, or landscape. And I'm very much a traditionalist. I love good landscape, YouTube-esque, could be on the BBC type stuff. But at the same time, I understand the need for the, you know, maybe the square bumpers or whatever it else that you're looking to do. So there's just so much more now to be considered, and I think consumers are making their decisions much quicker. And they're not just making a decision whether they're going to read it, they're making a decision whether it's any good as well. So they're going, nah, it looks crap, you know. And then you find yourself, you're doing exactly the same thing when you're on the news feed, and you go, my goodness, this is what people do when they're flying past my stuff, you know.
And it's hard to compete. You really need to be snappy and on your toes to compete against that. It's near impossible. Yeah, and I know that there's this whole big, you know, video, photos, that's the way to go. But I actually find that written content still does get a lot of traction. And I may be one of the last of the few flying the flag for written content. But what written content gives you, I think, is, I suppose, well, SEO, you know, you can get a lot more SEO into it. But apart from that, it gives you a lasting presence. Whereas I think people who are consuming photographs and video, they're looking for a new photo or a new video. Whereas I think if they're reading something, they might be more likely to come back to an article than they would come back to a YouTube video or a YouTube tutorial or whatever. So I think that there needs to be an awful lot of understanding of the importance of both types. Yes, you want to grasp their attention with your big graphics and your video and all of that exciting boomerang type stuff. But at the same time, you want to be backing it up with some really good, solid written content as well. Yes, another thing we agree with. Yeah. So, and we do a lot of video, as you know, you might have guessed. But, and as you say, we're all expecting the end of the world. Video's going to take over everything, but it didn't. It didn't happen. And I don't think it will, without a doubt. The beautiful thing with content is that I think it's a bigger commitment, because you can, 2 seconds, you're gone. A photo, video, you'll watch a couple of seconds. It's either for you or not. But content, someone to sit and read a piece of content, you've actually got their attention. And this is the thing, getting somebody's attention in a photo, yes, you might get more people's attention, but the attention that you're getting for the written content are people who've made a very clear decision. I am going to read this, I am going to consume this, and I'm probably going to take action afterwards. That action might be write it on the to-do list and it'll sit there forever, but they're still going to take some sort of action. And I think that, yes, it's harder to get them into the written content, but I think that the work is worth it in the end. That's where the gold is. And back to your point about the combination of all different types of, I guess, content. If it's social, a little bit of social, a little bit of video, and
Yeah,
written.
and
Everything to get better SEO. Everything together is where the
you do. You
win
have to
comes.
mix it up. You know, there's no point putting the same old, you know, link out every few weeks. You know, you do have to mix it up. That's probably one of the biggest things we try to say to people. If you do one thing, just make sure it's different each time, you know, and try if possible within the platform rather than we use Hootsuite a lot. We have to, because for me, that's your infrastructure, and then it's all about the agile that happens in between it. So if you imagine, you know, your Hootsuite, you know, is that kind of backbone, and then you just kind of use your agile as showing the platform that you're in there and that you're responding to people and that you're, you know, you're utilising it the way it wants to be utilised.
Amazing. And Hootsuite is amazing. We use it too. So
Love it, love it.
Where we've been
Hootsuite and Canva, I couldn't live without
that. That's a tool
Yeah.
for today. Amazing. So tell us about your company, because you have a couple of websites.
Yeah, so Excalibur Press is the main company, and it's because I'm obsessed with the Arthurian legends. There's really no other reason why it's called that. Although I should think up a good storytelling and all. But yeah, so we have the content club, and I set up the content club last year because a lot of my clients were asking the same questions. If I'm going to write a blog post, what should I write? Or how should I put it out there? Or what platform should I put it in? Or what tools are you using, Tina? And all. I thought, you know what, I'm just going to put all this in a blog and you can work away, you know. And it's worked really nicely, because what it's helped us to do is empower our clients. So we're not there to take the work away from the client. We're there to say, look, here's how to do it. Here's what you need to understand. And if you really can't be bothered, or you don't have the time, or you have no interest, then come back to us and we'll get somebody to do it for you. And that includes when it comes to their graphic design, for example. Like we would refer them to like a company like yourself, the web, or, you know, a company like Oranga for their graphic. So it just depends what it is. But for us, it's so important for them to feel empowered when they come to us, you know, that they're not walking away going, what are they on about? Like, what is that she was, you know, waffling? And some people get really frustrated at my obsession with making them understand. But I want them to be able to have a conversation with other people in the office to say, well, this is why we're doing this. This is what this is doing, and here's what we're doing behind the scenes. Because I think by empowering them, we're empowering them in the boardroom as well, and allowing them to show an understanding of all aspects of the business, and to give them, I suppose, more ability to input into other strategies and to pull what we do in, and vice versa, bring that information back to us as well.
Excellent. I know you do a lot in publicity management.
Yes.
Do you mind if we talk about that?
Absolutely, yeah.
I'm really intrigued by the mistakes that you'd see people.
Oh my God.
Yeah, oh, is it that bad?
Excuse me. Do you know what? We had a really brilliant example, which I did. I screwed up.
Brilliant. I love that. I can give you 100, don't worry.
So I was doing, so we have a tagline, it's Unleash the Power of Your Words. And I thought it would be nice to have lots of different wee taglines like that. But I wanted to kind of make them a bit relevant to the name Excalibur. It's, you know, we're trying to bring in a little bit more of the myth and the legend behind it. Because for me, it's, you know, what I love about the Arthurian legends is that whole idea of loyalty and trust and all of that stuff. So I thought, well, you know, the pen is mightier than the sword. It's a really, you know, it's an amazing line. So I wrote it down. I had my logo, and I had the pen is, next line, mightier than the sword. And my designer rings me up and he goes, Tina, have you read that? I was like, no. He was like, the pen is beside each other. It just read really badly. But it was a wonderful example of why you need a copywriter, why I as a copywriter needed another copywriter, why I needed a brand consultant to go, are you mental? Yeah. You know. And then I seen a wonderful one recently. I'll say it anyway. So the DUP came out with their Strength to Deliver tagline the other day, and Twitter sphere went mental about it being, you know, the acronym STD. And I just thought, did nobody sit down and think to themselves, what would somebody do to take this down? That's mostly, you're not looking at what the good bits are. You're going, if somebody really wanted to take me down, how are they going to pull this apart on me? And nobody thought to sit down and look at it and go, you know, it's absolutely indicative of why people need to be looking at, you know, copywriters, marketeers, PR consultants, publicists, you know, branding experts. I'm not saying that you should have them all, but I am saying that, you know, you do need a second opinion now and again. You know, and I can screw up, you know, and so can, you know, large political parties. So nobody's infallible.
No, and exact brilliant examples. So basically, a strategy. You need a strategy. You need someone in there helping.
Yeah, and just having someone, like the number of businesses I go to, and you see like menus with typos in them, or and you might think that's something really simple and really small, but actually what's happening is psychologically the person reading it, especially if there's somebody who doesn't like mistakes just naturally, they're feeling dislike, they're feeling a bit uncomfortable, they're feeling a bit pissed off, to be honest, and they maybe don't even realise why, but what they're doing is they're attaching a feeling of dislike to your brand, and that goes away with them. And so whilst it might seem like it's okay to misspell, you know, whatever the word might be, but actually it could have big ramifications, because that one person decided not to come again next time, they maybe had 4 people with them, you know, etc., and the ripple goes on. So it's about looking more closely at those things that you are putting out into the public eye, and really interrogating them, and wondering, you know, how can this take me down, not how can this build me up. Because the building up's the easy bit. It's the what will happen. We do a lot of crisis management behind the scenes, and the number of things, and you're just going, oh, this could have been prevented, like by just reading it, you know.
That's awesome.
But that's like, we have a lot of clients that we aren't allowed to talk about publicly, because the only work we do for them is crisis management advice, and we wouldn't, because, you know, that's the whole point of it. Nobody needs to know that it was crisis managed, you know. But I suppose that's an element of the publicity strategy that people don't understand. A lot of people think that we're just a PR company, and I'm almost obsessive about explaining that actually we're not, and we don't ever want to be a competitor to the PR or marketing industry. We want to work alongside them, and use our experience as content creators and corporate copywriters and publicists to bolster what they're doing for their clients, and also to bring them in to help us with our clients as well. And hopefully this is the start of that revolution.
Incredible. No, it's amazing. And back to obviously the content. So we got a couple of examples of content going online. So you think then, for a strategy for any business watching this, that creating content, blogging, is still valid today? If someone hasn't started,
Yeah.
and they're thinking, oh my word, I need to start thinking about producing content for my business, think blogging is something they should do, or?
Yeah, I'm always quite tentative about how I advise on this, because there are people who, like me, can write in a second. I mean, I can write a standard blog post in 15, maybe 20 minutes. Most of the people who work with me are writing them in about an hour. So we give an hour tops for basic. So for me, if you're spending any longer than an hour and a half, then you have to think to yourself, well, what's my time worth to me? What can I prospect during that hour? And is it better to just go and get a content agency to create that for me? And a lot of the time, it's not, you're not sitting down to write War and Peace. Sometimes you just need a few ideas on a page. I'm a great believer in Google Tasks. I love them. I cannot live without Google Tasks in my life. And I put a lot of stuff. I put a lot of links in, ideas for blog posts. And I mean, I would lie in bed and write blog posts for the content club, because an idea has popped into my head and I'm sitting on the phone in the notes, like lying like this, you know. And so for me, it's about taking that stress out of it. You know, don't sit down, you know, your tea and your laptop and your wee notes, and because you're putting the stress on yourself, you're suddenly turning it into a thing. And especially if you're someone who doesn't like writing or doesn't like creating content, then you're making it even more stressful. And then suddenly, oh, the dog needed a walk. That's far more important. You know, got to go put the wash on. And that's what happens, especially with entrepreneurs and small businesses. So for me, it's about, don't put off creating content, but at the same time, don't let it don't let it cause you to be bad at what you do because you've consumed your brain on, I have to blog, I have to put this out, and I have to do this. There are people out there that can help. And it might not even be, you might not want an agency to actually write it. You might just want an agency to come up with a list of ideas for you and say, look, here's some, write those, you know, and next minute, you know, the client has written you 10 blogs and you're like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do with all this, you know? So it's just about working with people and working out what's the best way for your business. And if somebody really hates writing, try some Facebook Lives, Instagram Live, try some, you know, podcasting. I've written a blog on the Content Club, how to set up a podcast in 2.5 hours. I did it. I do my podcasts in one take. I upload them within 15 minutes, you know, boom, it's out in Spotify, iTunes, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, YouTube, you name it. And I've shown people how to do that. They don't need to employ me, you know. So for me, it's about looking at what pieces of content I can do and getting on with it. And if those blog posts are only 100 words long to begin with, just take 5 of them at a later stage and turn it into one big one. You know, it's not rocket science, so stop trying to make it rocket science, is what I'm saying.
Any excuse not to start, isn't it?
Yeah.
And do you think there's any types of content that that's going to pop this year or is very important?
I think we're continuing on the trend of the how-tos and the listicles and that kind of thing. The listicle being the 5 ways to do or whatever. I think we're definitely continuing on that trend of, you know, the odd numbers and not going with your 5 or your 10. There's lots of psychological reasons for that. I think in terms of content, bite-sized content is really, really important, but it has to be in conjunction with long form. And there's a lot of conflicting information about long form out there. A lot of people are like, long form is dead, nobody wants to read anymore, you know, attention spans are this, that and the other. And it's just nonsense. It's just Stop listening to children at social media conferences. And I mean, I really do mean that. I am absolutely sick, sore and tired of clients saying, yeah, but people only have 3 seconds. I say, yeah, but if you get them in your 3 seconds for your headline, they'll give you another 3 minutes. And it's not about this idea that the whole world is refusing to learn or refusing to consume, because they still sit in TV is still the number 1 advertising choice. I don't know how long that'll be for, but it still is. You know, you only need to look at the growth of Netflix to realise that, you know, that TV in itself is still massive. It's just how you watch it is different. And I just think that we need to stop worrying about the fads and I don't mean this to sound disparaging, but that the kids keep coming up with, you know, and I just think that you need to think, what works for my audience? Are my audience the type who love to read long-winded intellectual reports about, you know, in-depth engineering, you know? Well, then give them that. Don't give them a 3-second bite-sized piece of nonsense, because those people are just going to think that you are shallow and they're not going to really they're not going to want to get under the skin with you. So for me, it's about really addressing who your audience is, because your audience isn't a millennial, and it's really insulting to the millennials to say that they have no attention span, they don't want to read anything, and that they're swiping past everything and all of that there. It is possible to grab somebody's attention in those couple of seconds to make them go and take 3 minutes out of their life. And anyway, everybody has to sit in the toilet. And who doesn't bring their phone, right? Who doesn't bring their phone? Anybody that doesn't bring their phone is lying to you. Lying. So you've at least got a minute. You have at least a minute to get them.
Amazing. And actually, the long form content, that's all we do. Actually, we
it's SEO gold.
Yeah, no, that's it. I think I definitely know we've one article on our site that's 16,000 words. I don't know if that's the longest, but I love when I see that.
That's a mammoth.
That's a beautiful.
Love it.
Oh yeah, I'm like. But again, I don't know. I'm sure on previous sites we've articles over 20,000, and I just seen articles ranking for over 2,000 keywords, because again, there's just so much content in them. So back to the long form, as you say, but we would meet people that say long form video, but no one ever watches it. But actually, that's fine. Someone will watch it, and if they're interested in it, amazing. Yeah. You've got someone sitting engaged in your brand for 30 minutes or 40 minutes. You're
more likely going to make a sale to somebody who's given you that kind of time and attention and consideration than you are to somebody who's like, whoa, oh, that was hilarious, you know, off they go. And there is a place for that, but I think the place for that is in entertainment. And in galvanizing people to do things, you know, join this campaign, give to this charity, you know, stop the politicians doing that. There's a real need for that in the entertainment and galvanizing world, as I call it. But when it comes to the sort of the educational world, which most people don't put a hardwood floor down without learning what you need to get. You know, what do you need to buy? Who do you need to put it down? Do you need a thing to go under it? You know, what do you use glue? You know, where do you buy it? So they do this research. People want information. And we're in a world where you just can't give them enough information. You know, so anyone who's not given information out there with a really good, strong call to action is just a fool.
Yeah.
To put it bluntly.
Missing the whole market, yeah.
Yeah.
Because exactly, you think how many times you searched during the day for advice, how to.
Obsessed, yeah.
Incredible. And you're talking there, you know, we're talking about so much there, but just remind me how important it really is to have a really tight and concise strategy around what you're doing online, because if you're doing a little bit here and over here and over here, you're missing the whole.
Yeah, I have two schools of thought on this. Number one, do something, right?
Brilliant.
Do something. And even if that something isn't really planned, just keep doing something until you get the time to make the plan. But the most successful campaigns will be people who have really sat down, they've thought about what their marketing and sales funnel is, how they're going to get people in there, how they're going to attract people's attention, what their customer avatar is, you know, looking at things like, you know, seasonal, you know, what's happening seasonally with your business, what's happening. It's amazing how many people these days, you know, they think, oh, Valentine's Day is coming up, stick out a post for that, you know, Mother's Day, stick out a post for that. But it's coming up for a month or two beforehand, you know, maybe you're not using the words Mother's Day, but maybe you want to be talking about mothers, you know, or you might want to be talking about something that's seasonal, but in a much more evergreen manner, so that if somebody read it in, you know, November, it still makes sense. And so for me, that's absolutely key, that I would like everybody to have a strategy. I would like everybody to have a content calendar. I would like everybody to have a full publicity plan behind them. But, you know, I'm happy if we get them close to that or started.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's a couple of people watching this having a heart attack with how
They're
much
going,
stuff
oh,
they
she's
do.
going to kill me.
But again, and that's where companies like yourself come in and take over. And I'm thinking back to copywriting, we're talking about writing. How important then is a copywriter for a company?
We're such an undervalued. No, but there's always somebody in the company who's a dab hand at writing, and that's brilliant. If you can harness that in a strong sales and marketing manner. But the problem is if you get somebody who's a dab hand at writing, but who writes the same way they did when they went to university, but they're trying to talk to people, you know, they're maybe talking to people who are working in a very quick and fast industry, or people who are reading it on their lunch break because they've been out on site, or so you have to really, it's about that customer again, you know, and making sure that what they're creating. And it's not that the people who are a dab hand at writing aren't good at doing it, it's just about giving them the skills and the knowledge to help them utilize that ability or that love, because you don't want to, because if you've got somebody who loves writing, you really want to utilize that. And maybe it's just a case of, you know, a company like ours or yours coming in, doing a little bit of training with them, helping them to understand some of the concepts, some of the easy, like literally a lot of the content we do is almost templated. You know, even the headlines. Digital Marketer are a great company to follow in America. They are always giving you swipe files and headlines and all sorts of things. And we would use a lot of them as well because they're brilliant resources. HubSpot have some great resources on there. Social Media Examiner, Social Media Today, ProfileTree. I've seen a few decent ones. I really love the Google search one. I've read it and I was like, oh, I love this. You know. And you know, and we have a lot in the content club as well. So just learning some of those tricks. But if you don't have that person that you can utilize, then it's vital that you bring somebody in from somewhere that can help you really I suppose, shape the message. You know, I'm in the middle of doing an American copywriting course at the minute, an online course. It's quite pricey. But in saying that, what was interesting about it was we haven't got into any copywriting yet. It's all about sales. It's all about writing in emotional ways. It's all about utilizing that funnel and how you get people in, and at what point in the psychology are you at your copywriting, you know, and that's something that I've been doing naturally because I've been doing it for so long. But you kind of think to yourself, wow, I never actually thought about the psychology of somebody just taking, you know, just consuming the first piece of content to the person who's been buying off you for years. So they described it like, you know, when you go on a first date, you don't ask them back to your house right away, do you? Or do you? You know, but he said, you know, for him, it's about building that relationship and that trust and getting them to the point where they're more than happy to part with their cash for you. But to do that, you've got to go through this. There was I can't remember the author, but there's like is it 12 Steps to Intimacy or something, is a book, and he was an anthropologist or a zoologist, sorry, who studied human intimacy, and he created it into these 12 steps, and actually, yeah, you don't walk up to somebody and, you know, give them a hug if you get the sense that they might not be a huggy person. You know, you might shake their hand, you know, you might sit beside them and have a discussion and make eye contact and all of those things. But there's this process, and it's exactly the same with your copywriting and your content. You have to pull people in at the right point. Otherwise, a fantastically written piece of content could just be wasted on somebody who's not psychologically ready for that style. And I suppose it's a difficult concept for some people to even think, oh, okay, this is a whole new world that we hadn't even thought of. But how else are you going to get them into your funnel in the first place? And it's all about getting them into the funnel. I don't care what anybody says. That's what the end game is. The end game is pulling people into that funnel. Whether that funnel is to make you famous or whether that funnel is to convert into sales, it doesn't matter. It's about jumping into the funnel and pulling them with you.
Amazing. And that's back to the strategy. So
Yeah.
incredibly, what's your endpoint and coming back from it? Brilliant. So how has Excalibur Press grown over the last couple of years?
Goodness, really quickly.
I think so.
So when I first started out, it was just me and a couple of freelancers, and we were kind of, you know, I would get a bit of extra work and I'd have to throw it off to the side, you know, and I was still very obsessed by everything having to come through me, and I'm still a little bit of a control freak, as Janine and Chloe will tell you today. But we have about 15 freelance contractors that we work with very solidly, and a number of agencies that we work with very closely. We were on various different accelerators and mentor courses. I think the best one for me was the Venture for Success with City Council. We're now on the Think Do Be. We did do the Ulster Bank Accelerator, which was fantastic for meeting people, and the workshops were amazing, like just being able to hear other entrepreneur stories and stuff. And then we reported there in January that between 2017 and 2018, we grew the business by around 70%. And that scared the living daylights out of me because I've just been getting on with it and doing it. So we moved into offices, and, you know, most of our clients are now on retainer rather than the one-off projects that we once had. And it's funny because there were maybe clients that we were working with in the past that I thought I would mourn, because I was so excited about them back then, and I'm like, I couldn't afford to take that client on anymore. And that's a really bizarre place to be, because you don't want to be turning work away. And to be quite frank, we don't turn any work away. But what I do now is I now put a really nice strategy in place for them to work with one of my content creators and one of the other people in the business, so that when they get when my input comes in, it's more on the higher sort of strategy and planning level. And it helps people get a lot more focus as well. And we've kind of moved into, I suppose, working an awful lot with thought leaders. And I love it. So we're in the middle of developing a thought leadership program, which I can't get done quick enough because people keep going, well, when does it start? And I was like, I don't know. So we might need ProfileTree to help us with that. But yeah, so it's really interesting how things are developing for us, and how I suppose I have come on as well. It's not just the business that has progressed, it's also me. I went from refusing to call myself a publicist because I was afraid of competing in the PR and marketing world, because I didn't want to compete. That wasn't what I was about. To realising, well, actually there aren't many publicists in Northern Ireland, and so maybe there's a niche in the market there. The ones that I know of are mostly in the music industry. So I was bringing something completely different to the table. And so when I pushed the word journalist to second on my list of things that I am, publicist, journalist, content creator, I got really upset. I was really like, oh my goodness. But I had to accept that that was where the business was going. That was where I was going. It's just the metamorphosis of it. And I'm really excited. The pace is, breakneck speed, but I love it. Absolutely love it. If it was any slower, I'd be bored.
I'd be crying. Amazing. And what then have you learnt then from your journey?
Goodness, what have I not learned? I suppose if I look back 10 years ago, I would say I was racked with imposter syndrome. Absolutely racked with it. As a young woman in the media, I had climbed quite quickly to a decent place. I was one of a few showbiz reporters across the country. I was trusted by a lot of editors to edit supplements and magazines and stuff like that. But I was still in my sort of late 20s at this point, and I'm 40 now, so we're talking a 10-year difference here. And back then I was obsessed with being the newbie. I always felt like I was new, like I was young. And then I took my career break and had a baby and went, hold on a second. I've been doing this 20 years. I was like, I'm not a newbie anymore. And it was that realisation that gave me the confidence to actually put my hand up and go, I think I know what I'm doing. And I'm perfectly happy to do it for you. Whereas before, I literally bumbled into clients. And when I say that, I mean that with the greatest, I literally just bumped into people and they liked me. They didn't know really why. They didn't really know what I did, but they could see that I was doing something interesting. So they would place an awful lot of trust in me but with no knowledge of what I was going to do for them. And then they would get some there would be some deliverables, and so they'd be like, all right, okay. So I've kind of got an idea of what she does. But what would happen was I would only ever last with a client for maybe a year or two, because at some point there was a hole. At some point I was unable to plug that hole. Whereas now I think I've learned the real importance of collaborative working, and that was something I was always like, keep all my stuff together all by myself and nobody come in, and and I was very afraid to even tell people who my clients were. I was afraid to go above the line with a lot of stuff. Whereas now I'm more confident in that. And I've always been a confident person on the outside, but what I didn't realise was that I didn't actually believe myself. And everybody else thought I did. I just didn't. And so now I'm very much of the point, like, you don't want to work with me, don't work with me. Like that now I have red hair. I wanted red hair for like 20 years. From I was like 13, 14, I wanted bright red hair. And I never had. I was always like, oh, but then people might think I'm a bit odd. And I was always, even when I was trying to conform, I was still on the alternative side of conforming. And so now I'm just like, do you know what? I don't care. Just let it all hang out. This is who I am. I curse and I say crazy stuff and I shout at people online and I have mad red hair and I am always the one that says the one thing that nobody wanted said in the room. But that's what's made me who I am, and it's what makes me good at what I do. And I'm horrifically honest with my clients as well. If something's not working or if something's really upside down, I'm the first person to go, oh, hold on, this ain't working. And sometimes I sack myself as well. Yeah, I have no problem going, do you know what? I'm not the best fit for you. And people get really
surprised,
yeah, they get really freaked out by that. And usually within a few months they're back going, no, hold on, you were the right person for me. But it's all about, I suppose, that feeling more self-assured. And I'd say that was the biggest lesson I learned was I never took stock of what I had been doing. And funnily, one of the things, I was saying this recently to someone, all of the interviews that I used to do with celebrities, especially celebrities who had been big in a certain time and then had come back again, they would all say the same thing. I never stopped to enjoy it. I never stopped to realise what I'd achieved. I never stopped to do this, that and the other. And then I realised, well, I'd done the same. I had been just working 10 to dozen. I mean, at one stage I was chasing Britney Spears around Europe for the National Enquirer, for something that ended up that much in the National Enquirer, and I get paid handsomely for it. They don't pay that kind of money anymore. But I never stopped to go, I'm in my mid-20s and I'm chasing Britney Spears around Europe. This is awesome. I'd never really stepped back and realised that these people that I was meeting, the business leaders, the celebrities, the editors, and these people in media who were really influential that I knew by first name and, knew to have a drink with, I never stopped to go, wow, this is pretty amazing. This is pretty amazing that that person who's been in this business for 30 years has just recommended you to do something. And now I think I just stop every now and again and go, that's all a bit mad. But it's nice. It's nice to just be, I suppose, grateful and to be more mindful of what it is that you're achieving and how you're achieving it and the impact that it's having on those around you as well.
Yes, incredible, excellent. Love the story. And of all the jobs you've had, and you've named a few of them.
Oh my goodness, I've had millions of jobs.
What's been your favourite then? If you're put the corner, you have to say
Oh
one.
my goodness, my favourite job ever. I think it probably. Oh goodness, no, this is really hard.
So it's meant to be, yeah.
Yeah, so I worked at the Daily Mirror for a while, and I absolutely loved that. I was the editor of the Licensed and Catering News for many, many years, and I absolutely loved that. I'd say probably the showbiz columns. So I had columns in the Sunday People, the Sunday Life, and the Sunday World, and I'd one in the Mirror, but it was more lifestyle rather than showbiz. And I think those were probably the most enjoyable time, and I moved from one paper to the next. So when I finished off with one paper, I went straight into the next for a column. And that just kept going round and round in circles. I mean, I think I was at Sunday Life twice and at Sunday World twice with columns and stuff. So I love the tabloid stuff. And I think I love the tabloid stuff because it's all about breaking it down into what people want to read. And because I didn't work in news or politics, I get all the fun stuff. I get all the really interesting human interest features and the stories of joy and inspiration and people doing amazing things and achieving, the best things ever. So I think I had a really wonderful, and I'm still doing those stories just in a different way now, and I'm helping other people imagine them, which is great. So I think probably, yeah, all of them.
You're cheating, eh? You're cheating, eh? I'm not surprised.
This is the thing. I absolutely love what I do. I love my job, and I'm the kind of person that I probably get a bit too obsessive about the jobs that I do. And I'm sure there's many of my former work colleagues can testify to that. I can be a pain in the arse. But it's because I genuinely get excited. I mean, if I suddenly had to sell that camera tomorrow or write something about, the camera, suddenly I would love cameras. And it's just, I don't know where it comes from. It's just this obsession with, now I know everything about cameras. I love them. I can't believe I don't have one, and it becomes that sort of all immersive deep diving. And I think because of that, because that's how I do it, I think I genuinely love everything that I do, I'm trying to think of a job I even hated. I didn't even dislike working in a pizza shop. I love chopping the mushrooms.
See, you're not over in that respect.
I know, I'm a complete oddball. Everybody says it.
And again, back to your passion, and I know we can attest to it because you've done some amazing work with us, and delighted to keep obviously working as we go forward. So anyone should be checking you out for that in that respect.
Absolutely.
So just wondering what advice you would give to a small business if they were looking to expand or grow their reach or their visibility? I
think one thing I learned was putting the time into your own business. It's so hard. So hard. I'm still trying to get my new website up and running. But it's about just giving yourself a break and giving yourself that headspace to do that silly wee thing that seems so irritating to you, but is probably going to make a massive difference to your business. But also, like, business mentors are not what they used to be. So for many, many years, I had avoided all sorts of programs and stuff because I'd had one bad experience back in my early 20s where I joined this business startup program, and they spent the whole time like teaching me how to write an invoice and creating this business plan that meant nothing to no one. The bank was never going to give me any money anyway. And so my perception of business courses and mentorship programs and startup programs was this skewed idea. I was like, I don't need to know how to write an invoice. I've been doing that for years. But wow, they have made such a massive difference to me. They've forced me to look at my business, my industry. They forced me to look at myself and my own skills. And because you get that accountability, because you get somebody who you're meeting next Thursday, even though it's maybe Thursday morning when you're doing the stuff, you're still getting it done. You're still, and really utilize them, because a lot of people are quite passive when they go to business mentors and stuff, whereas I'm very active, and the amount I got out of it, I can absolutely put the growth of my business down to being involved with accelerator and mentor programs. 100%.
Incredible, amazing advice. So what's next? What's the future?
Take over the world.
See you there. We're all going that way.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Be busy at the top, but
we all clambering.
We will be in good company.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. So
okay, I think for me now, it's about growing the business in a way that works for the business. So I never want to lose the creativity and the vibrancy, and me being able to dip in and out of projects and stuff like that. But at the same time, I don't want to set limitations. I mean, if you ask me where I see the business in 10 years' time, I mean, I have a vision of a factory floor and us creating publicity campaigns and strategies and plans for, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of businesses globally. And that's the big idea, and I would hope that at some point we'll be able to have an automated system that will help people create those plans, utilising really clever algorithms. But of course, that's a big dream and a big idea. But at the moment, I think for me, we love working with entrepreneurs and startups and small businesses and I think it's a really selfish thing, because I see the difference. I see the change, and I see how they progress, and to be honest, the gratitude is there as well, and we learn so much from them as well. Like, I learn more from my smaller clients than I do from my bigger clients. And that's not disparaging towards the bigger clients. It's just that their priorities are different, their KPIs are different, whereas smaller companies, you're hitting challenges together, you're kind of working stuff out. They've maybe found out something that's really new in terms of social media, and then you're like, God, I better learn this, or find out whether it's worth learning, that kind of thing. So they're constantly forcing us to upskill and to learn more and more. And that's just amazing. I'm now obsessed with learning, and I was never obsessed with learning. Anyone that went to school with me would know that I was not obsessed with learning, but now I am.
Incredible, excellent.
Yeah.
So if anyone wants to reach out, get some help, get some guidance around content and publicity, where should we send them? So
probably don't go to my website until it's done. You'll know it's done because there'll be a picture of me, of course. But yeah, so Tina at excaliburpress.co.uk, and I'm more than happy for people to connect with me on social media. I am really not hard to find.
Amazing. And the web URL is?
It's excaliburpress.co.uk, or if you want to just get some advice, contentclub.excaliburpress.co.uk is probably the best place to start.
Amazing. Excellent. Well, thank you very much for coming
in
and telling us everything about
I
publicity
know.
and content. Oh, amazing. Wow.
Blurted it all out.
Brilliant. The one video anyone has to watch is just here. So thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it. So it was brilliant. Excellent. And thank you very much for watching today. I hope you enjoyed the video. Tina was amazing. So make sure you check the links below and visit Excalibur Press and reach out to Tina on social media. And this is Kieran from ProfileTree. We're the content marketing agency here in the Innovation Factory on Springfield Road in Belfast. And we'll see you in tomorrow's video. Thank you again.